All right, everybody, welcome to another deep dive with us. This time, we're going to be focusing on how to totally crush that upcoming interview, specifically for all you aspiring street lighting electricians out there. So we've got a ton of great resources today, some awesome career guides, fantastic interview guides, even some insider info on how RoleCatcher's AI can give you a real edge. And you know what? This field is seriously booming right now. I mean, think about it. Cities are growing like crazy, technology is advancing at warp speed, and all those streetlights out there, well, they need somebody to keep them shining bright. That's where you come in.
You got it. And it's not just knowing your way around a circuit board or two. I mean, this job, it takes you outdoors, up high, and in all kinds of weather, rain, or shine. So before we even get to those questions, picture this. You're up on a ladder, maybe it's pouring rain, or the sun is beating down, still feeling that excitement for this career.
Okay. Maybe we can skip the blizzard scenario.
Yeah.
But really, that's a really good point. I mean, in the interview, you got to show me you're ready for anything. Talk about a time you powered through a tough outdoor job, showed some resilience, proves you're not afraid of a little weather or a lot of weather.
That's it. Now let's dive into some of these questions, shall we? It's fascinating to me. They ask about safety a lot, which makes sense. You're dealing with electricity, often pretty high up, so safety is a big deal. Here's one. How do you ensure compliance with safety regulations when working on street lighting projects?
Yeah, safety first. It's like, I can already hear those interviewers thinking, is this person going to be a liability? Or someone who actually takes safety seriously?
Right. So your answer has to show that you get it, that you understand those safety protocols. Don't just say, I follow the rules. Be specific. Mention things like OSHA guidelines, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Their regulations, those are the gold standard. You could even talk about a time you went above and beyond. Maybe you implemented a new safety measure on a project or something.
Exactly. Show them you're proactive, not just reacting when something goes wrong. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI comes in. It's pretty amazing, actually. Their feedback system analyzes your response and tells you if it's hitting the mark for the specific job. It's like having a personal interview coach in your pocket.
I love that. It's all about preparation. Speaking of preparation, here's another common one. Can you describe your experience with troubleshooting street lighting systems? They want to know you can handle those late night calls when a whole block suddenly goes dark.
Oh, this is where you become the streetlight detective.
Yeah.
What's the approach here, the one that really wows them?
Think of it as a story, okay? Walk them through it step by step. You get that call, lights are out. What do you do? First, you assess the situation. Is it just one light? A whole circuit? Any obvious damage? Then you check the usual suspects. Circuit breaker, photocell, the timer. Mention the tools you'd use. A multimeter, for example. You got to show them you know what you're doing.
Oh, for sure. And don't forget those tricky situations, the ones that really test your problem-solving skills. Maybe you had to track down a fault that was intermittent, or you had to think outside the box to get those lights back on.
Yeah.
Those are the good stories.
You got to show them you can handle the tough stuff. You won't give up easily.
Absolutely. Okay, so what if they throw a curveball? Like, what was the most challenging troubleshooting problem you've ever faced, and how did you solve it?
Oh, you better have a good story for that one. Maybe a time you had to get creative, like totally MacGyver your way to a solution. And even if you didn't solve it right away, walk them through your process, the steps, what you learned. It shows you're a continuous learner.
Love it. And here again, RoleCatcher's AI can help you tailor that answer. So maybe one employer really values quick thinking, but another, they prioritize methodical troubleshooting, right? The AI helps you highlight the right skill for each interview.
Right. It's like presenting the best version of yourself for each opportunity. Okay, let's try a more technical question. Can you describe your experience with street lighting design and installation?
All right, time to get down to the nitty-gritty. We're going beyond just changing a light bulb here. What are the details that'll make her eyes light up?
Well, don't just tell them, I've installed a lot of lights. You got to talk about projects with unique challenges, ones that needed some out-of-the-box thinking, like, have you ever designed lighting for a curved road, a bridge, a historic district even? Those are the kind of stories that stick with people.
Oh, totally. Shows you can handle the complex stuff. You're not just a one-trick pony.
Exactly. And you got to be specific, too. Talk about the types of fixtures you used, wiring methods, any challenges you overcame. Maybe you even use some specialized software or design tools. Shows you're up to date with all the latest technology.
Okay, so imagine I'm the interviewer, totally blown away by all your technical knowledge. And then I throw this at you. What were some of the trade-offs you had to consider when designing this system?
Ooh, That's a good one. It lets you show you understand the big picture. You could talk about balancing things like energy efficiency with how well the area needs to be lit. Did you have to pick specific lamps, spacing, even the height of those fixtures to minimize light pollution? It shows you're thinking about the impact of your work, not just the technical side.
Yeah, that's like that critical thinking skill they talk about in the career guide.
Hmm.
You're not just putting up a light, you're thinking about the why behind it.
Exactly. Speaking of insights, let's tackle a question that really tests if you know the rules of the game. Can you explain your knowledge of electrical codes and regulations related to street lighting?
Oh, this is it. Time to show off that code expertise.
I got it.
It's like asking a basketball player about the rules of the NBA. Can't play the game if you don't know the rules.
Exactly. And just like basketball, electrical work has a ton of rules. The interviewer wants to know you're not going to cut corners. So you got to show them you understand the National Electrical Code, the NEC, plus any local codes or ordinances that apply to street lighting.
Dropping those acronyms like NEC? That's good. But how do you go beyond just name dropping and show you really know your stuff?
Give them examples. Maybe talk about a time you had to figure out a tricky code requirement, or how a specific code changed a design choice you made. Shows you can apply those codes in real-life situations.
Makes sense. And maybe mention how you stay updated on code changes too. Are you subscribed to industry newsletters? Attending seminars? Show them you're committed to keeping up with the latest.
Yes. Continuous learning, that's so important in this field, especially with codes and regulations changing all the time.
Speaking of changing, let's talk about the career path for a street lighting electrician. The career guide, it really paints an interesting picture of how this career can progress.
Right. It's not just about getting the job, it's about where that job can take you. What stood out to you in the guide?
You know, I was really interested in the description of a senior street lighting electrician. They're not just installing and repairing, they're leading teams, making maintenance plans, even mentoring new electricians. It shows real leadership.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a great point. And the guide also talks about certifications that can help boost your career. Things like the electrician certification, electrical contractor license, even an OSHA safety certification.
right. Those certifications show your expertise,
Yeah.
and they show you're committed to growing professionally,
Absolutely.
which any interviewer is going to love.
Shows you're invested in your career, always learning and growing. And speaking of growth, one question they might ask to see if you're thinking long-term is, what are your career goals?
Oh, good one.
But-
What kind of answer are they hoping for here?
They want to see that ambition, but also that you're realistic. So talk about specific roles you'd like to have. Maybe becoming a lead electrician, a supervisor, even starting your own company someday. But don't just list titles. Explain how you plan to get there. Mention those certifications, your commitment to learning, maybe even your interest in new tech like smart lighting systems.
Okay, let's say you're interviewing for an entry-level position, but you have bigger aspirations. How do you balance that ambition with the reality of the job you're applying for?
That's where you got to tailor your answer to the specific opportunity. Express your excitement about the entry-level role, highlight the skills you want to learn, but also mention you're driven and you have long-term goals. You could say something like, I'm excited to learn the ropes and build a solid foundation. I'm also eager to be a strong team member and take on more responsibilities as I gain experience and continue my education.
Oh, I like that approach. Grounded in the present, but looking to the future too. And you know what? I bet those career goals tie into another classic interview question. How do you stay informed about new technologies and trends in the street lighting industry?
100%. They're testing your commitment to lifelong learning with that one. Are you content with the way things are? Or are you always looking for new knowledge and skills?
Okay, so I Google stuff sometimes. Isn't going to cut it. We got to show them we're actively staying informed.
Exactly. Talk about the specific resources you use. Do you subscribe to industry magazines like Electrical Contractor or LEDs magazine? Do you go to conferences like Light Fair International? Do you follow industry leaders on social media? Be specific.
Right. The more details, the better. So, say I'm the interviewer, and I'm really impressed with your list of resources. I might ask, can you tell me about a specific technology or trend that you're really excited about and why?
That's your chance to show off your passion. Pick a technology you're genuinely interested in and tell them why. Maybe you're excited about how smart street lighting can save energy and make things safer. Or maybe you're into the latest LED tech and how it can make lighting more dynamic and sustainable.
Great examples. And it's not just about knowing the fancy tech terms, it's about understanding how these technologies are changing the industry. and how they can be used in the real world.
Exactly. You got to show them you're not just following trends, you're thinking about how these advancements can actually make a difference.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here. Safety, troubleshooting, career goals, industry trends. But before we jump into part two, let's quickly talk about how RoleCatcher can help you prepare and really ace that interview.
Yeah, let's do it.
We've mentioned some of their AI tools, but they can really give you a leg up as you're getting ready. From their resume builder to their massive library of interview questions and their feedback system. RoleCatcher can help you tailor your application and your answers to each job and company culture.
And don't forget about their Get Discovered feature. You can let employers find you based on your skills and experience. It's like having your own personal headhunter working for you 24/7.
Pretty amazing, right? Okay, so let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back for part two of our Street Lighting Electrician Interview Prep Deep Dive. We'll tackle more challenging questions and share even more tips and strategies to help you land that dream job. Stay tuned.
Can't wait. All right, welcome back. We've been breaking down those technical questions, but now let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk about those behavioral questions you're bound to get in an interview. You know the ones, right? They start with, like, tell me about a time when... They may seem less technical, but they're still super important.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Those tell me about a time questions. They can be a little tricky. They want to see your personality, how you handle pressure, how you work with others. Right. But how do we turn those into a hire me moment?
It's all about storytelling, you know. Anyone can say they're a team player or a problem solver, but if you can tell a vivid story that illustrates those qualities, that's what makes you memorable. That's what makes you stand out.
Okay, I like that. So let's take a classic one. Can you describe a time when you had to work under tight deadlines to complete a street lighting project?
I mean, everyone's faced deadlines, right? But how do we make our story stand out? Choose a project that had some serious stakes where the pressure was really on, maybe a last-minute request from a client, a big event happening nearby, or maybe a project got delayed because of bad weather. You got to set the scene for them, paint that picture.
All right, so let's say I was working on a brand new lighting system for this big park, and all of a sudden, the city announces there's this huge concert happening there next week. Now the pressure's on to finish the project before thousands of people show up.
Perfect example. Now walk them through what you did. How did you prioritize tasks? Did you have to bring in extra help, longer hours, show them you can adapt, and that you're dedicated?
Oh, totally. I talk about reorganizing the team's schedule, delegating tasks, maybe even working some weekend shifts to make sure everything got done on time. And I'd emphasize how important it was to communicate with the city and the event organizers, keeping them in the loop every step of the way.
Perfect. That's great. And don't forget to talk about the outcome. Did you meet that tight deadline? What did you learn from that experience? Even if there were some bumps along the way, focus on your problem-solving skills, your ability to stay calm under pressure.
That's so important.
Yeah.
And this is another place where RoleCatcher's AI can be a lifesaver, right? It can analyze your story and tell you if you're emphasizing the right skills for that specific job.
Right.
Maybe one employer is all about leadership, and another, they might care more about teamwork. The AI can help you adjust your answer for each situation.
Exactly. It's all about showing the best side of yourself.
Yeah. Okay,
so let's tackle another behavioral question that pops up a lot. Can you describe a time when you had to deal with a difficult customer or coworker? This one can be tricky if you're not careful.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's had those tough interactions, right? Feels like they're trying to see how patient you are, maybe even trying to get you to say something negative about someone.
Well, they're definitely testing your diplomacy and professionalism. The key is to avoid negativity and focus on how you resolve the situation. Pick a situation where you were able to handle a tough interaction and still get a positive outcome.
All right, let's say I'm working on a streetlight installation, and there's this resident nearby who's constantly complaining about the noise, the disruption. How do I turn that into a good story for the interview?
First, you got to acknowledge their concerns. Show some empathy. You could say, I understand construction can be disruptive, and I appreciate you letting me know about this. Then you explain the steps you took to address the problem.
I see. So I might talk about adjusting the work schedule to minimize noise during certain hours. Or maybe how I talked with the resident one-on-one to explain the project timeline and answer any questions they had. And I definitely mentioned that I followed up with them regularly to make sure they were okay with how things were going.
Excellent. It shows you're proactive and looking for solutions. And again, focus on that positive outcome. Did the resident end up thanking you for your efforts? Did the project keep moving forward smoothly despite those initial hiccups?
And RoleCatcher's AI can help here too, right? It can tell you if your story is coming off as too defensive or negative. It
Yeah.
helps you find that right balance between honesty and professionalism.
Exactly. It's about showing them that you can handle difficult situations with grace and professionalism. Now, let's switch gears and talk about a question that lets you show off your expertise and your passion for staying ahead of the curve. How do you stay informed about new technologies and trends in the street lighting industry?
Oh, this is where we get to geek out a little. We're not just electricians, we're tech enthusiasts, right?
Absolutely. They want to see that you love what you do, that you're always learning. So think about the resources you use. Industry magazines like Electrical Contractor or LEDs magazine, conferences like Light Fair International. Do you follow industry leaders on social media? The more specific, the better.
Okay, imagine I'm the interviewer and I'm totally impressed by your list of resources. What if I follow up with, can you tell me about a specific technology or trend that you're particularly excited about and why?
That's your chance to really shine. Choose a technology that you genuinely find interesting and tell them why you're passionate about it. Maybe you're fascinated by the potential of smart street lighting systems to save energy and improve public safety. Or maybe you're intrigued by the latest LED tech and how it can create more dynamic and sustainable lighting solutions.
Great examples, yeah. And it's not just about knowing the latest buzzwords, it's about showing a deeper understanding.
Right, exactly.
You got to show them that you're thinking critically about how these new technologies are changing the industry and how they can actually be applied to real projects.
You got it. You're not just following trends, you're thinking about how these advancements can benefit your work and the community as a whole.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about those technical questions and how to show off our knowledge. But let's not forget about those behavioral questions, the ones that interviewers love to sneak in. You know, the tell me about a time when kind of questions.
Right, those behavioral questions are designed to see your soft skills, your personality, how you handle different situations. They can be tough, but with a little prep, you can turn them into a chance to shine.
For sure. So let's look at a common one. Can you describe a time when you had to work under tight deadlines to complete a street lighting project? Seems pretty straightforward, but I bet there's more to it than just listing your projects and deadlines.
Definitely, there's more to it. This question is about showing off your time management skills, your ability to prioritize, and how well you handle pressure. They want to know how you deal with stress, how you solve problems, and how you communicate when things get tough.
So instead of just saying, I always meet my deadlines, we need to tell a story.
Exactly. Tell a story. Think of a project that had some serious time constraints. Maybe a last-minute request or an unexpected weather delay, or maybe a super complex installation that took a lot of coordination. And then walk the interviewer through your process. How did you manage your time? What was the outcome?
Got it. Okay, give our listener an example. Let's say you're working on this huge street lighting upgrade project, and suddenly the city announces this big festival is going to happen right in the middle of your construction zone. Now you have to finish the project before the festival starts, and the deadline is super tight. What would you do?
First, I'd take a deep breath and assess the situation. Then I'd get my team together. We'd look at the project schedule, figure out what absolutely had to be done before the festival, and then we'd brainstorm ways to speed up the timeline.
So communication and teamwork are key here.
Absolutely. I'd also make sure to communicate with the city officials and the festival organizers, keep them updated on our progress, address any concerns they might have. Being transparent and communicating openly, those are essential in this kind of situation.
And I'm guessing you'd want to look at every possible way to speed up the process.
Right.
Maybe working longer hours, bringing in extra help, even adjusting what's included in the project if absolutely necessary.
Exactly. And throughout the process, I'd be checking on our progress, identifying any potential problems, and adjusting our plan as needed. Being flexible and adaptable, those are key when you're dealing with tight deadlines.
Makes sense. So let's say you get the project done just in time for the festival. But there were some challenges along the way. Would you mention those in the interview?
Oh, absolutely. It's important to be honest about the challenges, but instead of focusing on the negative, talk about how you overcame those challenges. What did you learn? How did it help you grow professionally?
Great advice. And it's interesting how this question can also connect back to those technical skills we talked about earlier. Like if you had to troubleshoot a really complex electrical problem under a tight deadline, you could mention that here too.
Absolutely. It shows that you can use your technical skills in a real-world, high-pressure situation.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, but before we move on to the last part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we mentioned before. RoleCatcher's AI tools.
Oh, yeah. Those are game changers.
They can be so helpful for anyone prepping for a street lighting electrician interview.
Definitely.
From fine-tuning your resume to practicing your answers, RoleCatcher's AI can really give you an edge.
And don't forget about the Get Discovered feature either. It lets employers find you based on your skills and experience, like having a personal recruiter working for you around the clock.
Pretty amazing, right? All right, so let's take a quick break, and we'll be back with the final part of our Street Lighting Electrician Interview Prep Deep Dive. We'll share some last-minute tips and strategies to help you ace that interview and land your dream job. All right, we're back, ready to light up this last part of our Street Lighting Electrician Interview Prep. We've tackled those tough technical questions, the tricky behavioral ones. Now it's time for those finishing touches, the things that can really make you stand out.
It's like this. We've wired the circuits, checked all the connections. Now we just got to make sure your personality shines as brightly as those streetlights you'll be installing.
Oh, I love that. So where do we start? What are some key things to remember as we head into this final stretch of interview prep?
First impressions, they matter a lot. You want to project confidence, professionalism from the moment you walk in the door. And that starts with how you look.
Okay, so we're not talking suits and ties here, but definitely a step up from our usual work gear.
Right. Clean shirt, pressed slacks or khakis, maybe. Shoes are polished. Those details, they show you're taking this seriously. And don't forget about those nonverbal cues either. A firm handshake, a good smile, eye contact. All those things help build a connection with the interviewer.
Oh, for sure. It's about showing respect for the opportunity and the people interviewing you. Okay, so once the interview gets going, what are some strategies to really impress them?
One of the best things you can do is ask good questions, thoughtful questions. It shows you're paying attention, you've done your research, you're really curious about the company and the job.
Okay, so what kind of questions should we be asking? We don't want to just throw out random stuff and seem unprepared.
Think about questions that show off what you know about the industry, or maybe about the company's specific challenges. Like you could ask about their plans for using smart street lighting technology. Or what are the biggest hurdles they face in maintaining their current systems?
Those are great examples. Shows you're thinking ahead, you're interested in the bigger picture. And you know what? It's not just about asking the right questions. It's also about how you listen and engage with the conversation.
Oh, definitely. Active listening, that's crucial. Pay attention to what they're saying, ask follow-up questions, show that you're really interested in their answers. It's a two-way street, you know? Oh, and one more tip. Don't forget to follow up after the interview with a thank you note, maybe an email. It's a small thing, but it shows you're professional and that you appreciate their time.
Absolutely. It reinforces that positive impression you made.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing how much a little preparation and practice can help. Even if you're nervous, the more you practice those answers, the more confident you'll feel.
Right.
And that confidence, it'll show in the interview.
You got it. And remember, it's not just about getting the right answers. It's about showing your passion, your excitement for the field, that genuine interest in the opportunity.
So there you have it. We've gone from those technical deep dives to those tricky behavioral questions. And we've even polished up those final touches. We're confident you're ready to go out there, light up that interview room, and land that dream job as a street lighting electrician.
And remember, it's a journey, not just a destination. Even if you don't ace that first interview, keep learning, keep growing, and keep shining bright.
I love that. And before we wrap up, a big shout out to RoleCatcher for all those incredible resources they offer. From that AI-powered resume builder to their massive library of interview questions and their feedback system, they've got your back every step of the way.
Yeah, and their career guide, too. So much great info about the world of street lighting electricians.
Thanks for joining us on this electrifying deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another exciting exploration. Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep shining bright.